Friends, welcome to Splashing Colors Academy. This is Dolly Sharma. Today we're going to paint a basic landscape. So let's get started. We begin with a simple sketch of a tree and a little house or a cottage on a hill. And we start with painting the sky using cobalt blue. Just random brush strokes using little water. Here I've used boxboard paper and poster colors. So just using a little bit of cobalt blue, adding blue to color the sky. And then I will be using green, yellow to color the greenery around the cottage. And carefully color around the cottage too, little greens here and there, using little water. Then I'm using little light green to add some variations. Now you can feel free to use color combinations of your choice. You can mix a little bit of blue with the green to give a darker shade. So feel free to experiment with colors. Now again I'm carefully coloring, painting around the cottage. So just using water and a little bit of cobalt blue color, a little bit coverage for the sky, and just random brush strokes I'm using. So just feel free to use the colors and express yourself. Like many a times you're so fearful of, the painting getting spoiled or the colors getting all muddy. But with watercolors, you just have to feel free to just express yourself. And it does dry quickly too. So just random strokes. Now I'm trying to color the slope area around the house. So greens and yellows. A little bit of cobalt blue also I've used. And again I go back to make a little bit leaf for the tree. So which is poster green, light green, yellow, and a little bit of blue. Now again, little bit trees around the cottage. So I've been using just these three colors, light green, poster green, and yellow. Now for the tree trunk, burnt sienna mixed with a little bit of cobalt blue to give you that beautiful darker brownish shade. And just like in nature, you just don't have one color. So you mix and match so many colors to give it that depth, that intensity. And I'm just using random brush strokes. A little bit water, spreading it around. A little green to give a little shadow effect. Blue, green. And many times I do mix a little blue with a little crimson red to give that purplish color too. So it gives a beautiful shadow effect. There you go, nice shadow effect you can see. And again little bit of green, little sap green. So feel free to experiment with different color combinations. The more you experiment, the more you understand how it is working out for you or not, what color choices you like. You try to create a little color harmony in your painting. Now I'm going to use yellow ochre to give a little more depth to my tree trunk and little definition for my branches. Just random branches I'm going to draw. So it tries to give you different tone values too. You have a dark, light, and some highlighted portion. Now again I'm going to go and give a little bit more shade to my tree. So again yellow, little white I use, a little bit of blue. A little blue I add to my poster green to give it a little darker green look. And just random brush strokes. Now again, I'm going to give some more depth to my trees around the cottage. Little yellow has been added. And you can see the difference now. First was just green. The more you add layering wise, it creates little depth, little more personality to your painting. Now again, a little bit more I feel, okay, I need something more around this side of the cottage. So just random brush strokes, upward brush strokes for the trees. A little bit more around the cottage to give that slope look. So I'm getting downward brush strokes. And little random ones, and I try to not give very harsh lines. So just spread with, add the color and spread with water. Now for the roof of the cottage, I'm using burnt sienna, a little bit of orange. You can also add a little bit of cobalt blue to give it a little darker shade. So you can choose the color combination and see what kind of colors you like, what works for you. And again, a little bit more bluish tinge I'm adding to my tree. And when I work on a particular landscape or painting, I don't just focus on one element. I try to spread my attention all around. So a little bit I'll work on the trees around the cottage, a little bit on the tree, the trunk. So that way a color harmony is created, a composition is created, and you know what is lacking and what more you need to add to your landscape. So I'm just trying to add more depth, more leaves, but I'm not defining the leaves as such, just random brush strokes using different colors and different variations. So you get the effect of light, dark, little highlighted. And then I go about and add a few leaves, like a definition of leaves. Then I take different colors. You have taken poster green, created some leaves there, little white, pale yellow. Because when you see in nature, you don't see all of the one particular shade. There are so many variations. And when you're adding different tones, different color values to your painting, it just comes to life. Yeah, just more leaves here and there, just random brush strokes. Basically, whenever I paint, the only thing you have to remember is to enjoy the process, to thoroughly have fun with it. Now again, I'm adding a little bit more yellows to my trees around the cottage, and I'm not defining them. Like I'm not adding too much of tree trunks and branches, just randomly. And later on, if I feel I need to add to it, we can add that later during the fine tuning stage. Just adding more values, more colors. This is creating the slope effect. Again, a little bit more around the tree, little shadow effect. Little bit more, I think my tree leaves, little more tree leaves. So I'm going around the tree. When you paint, you can have like a vision in mind, whether it reminds you of a beautiful holiday destination or a cozy cottage you must have seen, or you must have gone camping, you had a log house. So when you have a little vision in your mind, or little like you're reading a storybook, that's what you can do while you're painting. That you can express on paper. That's what I do. When I'm expressing on paper, when I'm painting, that's what goes through my mind. Now here I'm using white color to color the exterior of this cottage. That's why the reason I used is boxboard paper, because it has a gray tone, and that is why I wanted to use this paper, as I wanted to color white for my cottage. So on this beautiful paper, this white really shows so beautiful. Isn't the cottage looking so inviting already? Like you feel like just taking a weekend off and taking your favorite book, your music, or maybe your art supplies, and just staying there for the weekend, or just admiring nature, little me time, little vacation away from the hustle and bustle of the city. Now neatly I'm coloring the cottage. So sometimes the edges are there, so just color around the cottage to give it that neat look. And now little bit of cobalt blue for the doors and windows of the cottage. A slight defining the cottage roof of the cottage. So a little darker tone of the same burnt sienna, orange, little bit of blue you add to it. Since I already had that color, I'm kind of touch up my tree trunk too. And then you can think what it requires more. It needs to balance the colors, so adding a little bit of white for that side which is lacking. I think that side needs a little bit more highlight, little bit more focus. So just went around with white color and added a little bit more leaf around the area. So feel free to experiment. Here I've used yellow. You can imagine like it's in full bloom. The flowers are blooming, the white, the yellows. Just imagination knows no bounds. So you just have to have fun while you're painting. Again, I go around on the other side of the tree and I think, okay, lacks a little bit more definition of the leaves. Just random leaves here and there, random brush strokes. Don't have to go and define each and every leaf, just random to make you realize there are some leaves over here. And sometimes, many times in watercolor, I feel much of it is left to the imagination of the viewer. So you just give them a hint of what's there. You do not have to define so much as per se. And the main thing, whenever you're making any kind of artwork, the main thing should be to have fun. The process is more important than the entire destination. Sometimes we're so worried about how it is going to turn out, so you're not enjoying along the way. You're so fearful of adding colors, you're so fearful of trying and experimenting. So that's the fear we all have to work on. I've been there too. I used to be so scared, will this work, will this not work? And until I let it all go and I just started having fun, that's where it started to all come together. All the paintings and what work I was going to do. So just defining the branches here and there. A little darker color. Most of them I've used burnt sienna with a little bit of blue added. Blue, little green. So the tree already looks all done up. And then I think something is lacking. I just go around with my poster green color and my light green and touch up the trees a little bit. And again, little shadow work. And some of the portion of the boxboard paper, I leave it as is. Because that gives you the effect of earth. Mother Nature. So it has all the different variations, different shades. So some portion I've left it intentionally the way it is. So again touching up around the tree, little shadow, little bit more definition for the shrubs and trees around the cottage. Little bit more green, mixed with little blue. So you give the different colors. And when so many colors are kind of in harmony, the painting comes to life. A little bit more touch up for the tree trunk, little more shadow work there. But feel free to experiment with colors. See what works for you, what style works for you. Again, a little bit more touch up for the branches of the tree. You don't have to, but I feel it adds a little bit more interest to your work. A little bit fine tuning here and there. I would really like you to try this out and see how it works out for you. And I would like to hear your feedback in the comments. It's a very basic painting I've taken, not much, just a little cottage and a tree with little foliage around it. Now here I'm painting some little shrubs around the cottage. You know, those beautiful creepers going up the walls of a cottage. It adds so much of character, so much of beauty. So simple brush strokes, just simple. Sometimes in watercolors, I think less is more, what I believe in. In the beginning, when I would do, I would add so many different colors and so much I would end up overdoing my work. But then off late, I've realized subtlety of it. Don't have to add so much. And it still has to tell you the story. It's like your picture is telling the story. Is narrating to the viewer what they can see. Maybe it reminds them of a favorite vacation spot. Maybe it reminds them of their grandparents' house or somewhere they're gone, or their place, the dream house they would like to have one day. So all that things are portrayed through your artwork. So that's what when I paint, that's what I think. It makes me happy. And when I'm thinking, when the final product is ready, when the artwork is ready, will it make a smile, some joy, some happiness on a person's face? So a little bit touch up here and there. It's almost come to life. Now you can see the cozy little cottage. You can feel the ambience, the nature, Mother Nature surrounding you. And then a little bit, I think it needs some work here. So little tree trunks, little branches here and there, I'm going to randomly add. And art is very forgiving, I think. There is no right and there's no wrong in art. And how much ever techniques and things you learn, the only thing you learn more is when you start doing it on a regular basis. The more you do, the more you learn. And the more you think what works for you, and you create your own style. A little bit more cobalt blue for the windows and the door. So creating a little depth. So just enjoy your work, enjoy the process. Don't worry about the destination. Don't worry how it's going to look like. You have to like it, you have to love it, and you have to have a good time. That's what I believe in. Okay, it's almost done now. I can see. And sometimes you don't like the painting at once, whatever artwork you're doing at once. I highly recommend, take a pause, go for a walk, take a sip of your favorite tea or coffee, and come back to your work, and you will look at it from a different perspective. And sometimes even sleep over it. Look at it the other day, the next day, and you will start liking it. Sometimes you don't like it at first. You are so critical of your own work, but you have to just give it a pause and it will all work out. So I hope you enjoy it. Happy painting.